Like, what the fuck is she doing? I'm trying to learn a double bass pedal in my room. Can you mind? Or do you mind? David, talk! This is not sponsored. Should I go? Wait. Hold on. Oh, it's so hot. Look at mom. Everybody's looking for something. Ow. Use my yellow. Oh, you guys can't even hear it. So I forget that. I wanna use you. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Literally been sitting in my room just like I want to play the drums again. I only know how to do one beat. Yow. Name the song if you know it. Oh, it was horrible. Ever since I hit my head, I cannot do that. That's why I slur my words too. Darn it. Oh, you can't see. What the fuck? Just going way too hard. Sorry for being late. I'm obsessed with Tool. Everybody knows this. I don't have any tattoos, but I almost did. Okay. I was sitting here. I was like, should I DM Marilyn Manson? Y'all be saying that girls can do that. How would I pop up? I just want to say hi. Nothing else. There is Random Noises is not a song. No, that's a song. Either you know it or you don't. Rob Zombie. Duh. I used to listen to Deftones, but it makes me depressed. If I'm being honest. I have friends that were really into Deftones. It's a weird era in my life. I think I was like I had to be 18 or 19. No, maybe 20. I don't know. Finally started listening to Tool earlier this year. When I started playing guitar and bass again, they are not overrated. You either really like them or you're just not a fan. I mean, I guess that's with like every fucking band. I don't know. Hi, Glenn. I grew up on Metallica. They still rule, but Tool is the soundtrack of Satan in the best way possible. Thank you so much. As if I fucking buy. I always played Metallica on Guitar Hero because it was the longest song. I haven't heard Metallica in a minute. One. You know who I used to be really into, and they came on the radio, and I was like, okay. Probably no one likes them, actually. The Offspring. Do you guys remember this band? How did I hurt my knuckle? Kill Switch. I feel like I've heard those. Pretty fly for a white guy. Mickey Avalon, call me Mr. Right. Do you guys remember that song? Who that man in the black Sudan with some hookers and a Mexican? Mickey Avalon, call me Mr. Right. Dude, we used to listen to the craziest shit. Are we trying to do political content tonight? Because I don't want to. I have a video lined up. Fuck it. I was literally going to get... I was so lame. Such a weird kid. I wanted to get lyrics tattooed. Lucifer. Oh my god, it's been a minute. Damn. Ooh, I love this shit. Yeah, I didn't forget. I was actually going through comments because I knew a couple people wanted to jump on and talk, and I know that was something we wanted to do. The issue is that it might push my content down because of the gun thing. What are we talking about tonight? I don't know. I guess people wanted to talk about the stuff from earlier. I'm really late though. One day. It's like, Tori, where are we going with that one? I don't know. Beautiful people. It's all relative to the size of your steamboat. Can't smell your own shit on your knees. Hey, yo, what do you say? Okay, hold on.
You would vote for Joe Biden's urn with his ashes inside rather than Donald Trump.
Stop screen.
President Joe Biden has achieved something that for many years seemed impossible. He appears to have unified America, not behind a policy, an ideology, or a dream, but behind the blunt truth that he's no longer fit to serve.
Let's see where most replay is. Hold on. Here we go.
I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers' money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
Did he have COVID during this time? Or is it just hard?
I mean, I play golf off 16, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I would
Oh my God, did Tommy Lahren get a nose job? It looks good, bitch.
bet $100,000 to a charity of President Biden's choice that I could give him a shot a hole rather than him giving me 10 shots, and I'd still beat it. This idea he was ever a 6 handicapper is ludicrous. But Dr. Mark, there are so many clips that people are comparing to 4 years ago to 8 years ago of Joe Biden in debates where he sounds previously whip smart, really on it, dynamic, and so on, eloquent, articulate. That person no longer exists. What is likely to be happening here?
I'm glad you used the word likely, because obviously I haven't examined him, but Piers, first of all, everyone out there needs to know that he's going to be the last to know. Any neurologist will tell you he's going to be the last to admit it. Those around him will see him faltering. They'll see him having problems with speech, searching for words, not following a sentence from beginning to end, saying ridiculous things, saying offensive things, getting irritated when he's contended with. That's a sign of growing cognitive impairment. He's going to be the last to admit it. And then his wife steps in and starts speaking for him, reminiscent of Woodrow Wilson, when he couldn't rule the country and his wife was taking instruction and running the country. That was probably the scariest thing of all. I think that there's a lot.
It's like so annoying. I'm not in the mood. It's just like he's killing my vibe. Let's go over here.
If it turned out, for example, that he genuinely has got a deteriorating dementia that is quite aggressive, and this gets medically diagnosed now as a result of this debate, is there a mechanism for his removal that you're aware of from the office of president? I mean, 25th Amendment, does that cover it?
True.
Yes, the 25th Amendment covers it. And to your point, I want to point out that his last physical that he had in February, I have been asking for years now, and Tommy, the same thing. I've been asking for years now for a full assessment.
Okay?
They didn't give it. They danced around it. No MRI scan was listed. A lot of dementias would show up on an MRI, and no formal cognitive testing has been done. I think there could be a demand for that right now. What does his MRI show? If he's impaired, then there would be a case for removing him now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Dr. Mark, always great to have your contribution. Thank you very much indeed. Destiny, you were chuckling there. What were you chuckling about?
The idea that a Republican would demand a full physical assessment from a president when they wouldn't even demand Trump's taxes is hilarious to me. The idea of not being able to answer the call in the middle of the night, I mean, it's already happened. We've had it with Ukraine. We've had it with Israel. Like Donald Trump did not show leadership when Iran attacked Saudi Arabia and he stood by and did nothing. He didn't show leadership when he abandoned our Kurdish allies in Syria for absolutely no reason. Biden has shown leadership, whether you like it or not, whether you like how he's dealt with it or not. He has shown leadership and the ability to bring allies together for Ukraine. He has shown leadership and the ability to force Israel to simultaneously show restraint while still remaining faithful as an ally. So, I mean, like, we can make fun of a debate performance all you want, but we can compare the legislative records of both presidents and we can compare their actions in office.
You can, but here's the problem. You can, but here's the problem with that, is that it's just not cutting through. There's no doubt Biden's had a number of wins as president. No doubt at all. There's no doubt that comparative to most of the rest of the world, the US economy is purring along quite nicely. But his approval rating is at 37%. And after that debate, this issue of his own ability to function physically and mentally is now the only thing anyone's going to talk about for the next 5 months. He was incapable, when it really mattered, of articulating to the American people what his successes were, what his policy wins had been, what his attack lines against Trump were going to be, and why he should be reelected. He could, I mean, honestly, I watched the whole thing at 7 in the morning.
I understand that, but
hang on. I watched the whole thing at 7 in the morning in the UK until 8:30. I had a lot of coffee. I was about as alert as a human being could be. I barely understood anything Biden said in the entire 90 minutes. And by contrast, I've known Trump since 2006 very well. I've watched him at close quarters when I did Celebrity Apprentice for 3 hours a night across the boardroom, night after night after night, until, and modesty prevents me from going about this too much, until I won. But at the end of it, I had 100 hours of watching Trump. He's pretty much the same guy. You may hate him, you may hate the trash that comes out of his mouth, all those things. But in terms of his actual performance, Trump on that debate stage the other night, in fact, if anything, it was the most restrained I'd ever seen him. Because even he could tell the guy next to him was just melting down. So, Destiny, there's the problem.
What a black job is, Piers, after watching him? Did you guys figure out what a black job is?
I'm going to come to you in a moment for your analysis of what we think a black job is. But let me just get Destiny.
No. Yeah.
That's what I think the problem is, right? The problem is that.
I understand what you're saying, okay? As somebody who spent the last 8 years cutting their teeth doing debate, that's what I do, is political debate. All I've heard every single time is debate doesn't matter. It's not that important. Now all of a sudden that's the most important role.
It does when it's that bad.
Why are we talking? What about the immunity for criminal actions that Donald Trump just secured in front of the Supreme Court?
American people.
It's an insane thing that what we're talking about is Biden's debate performance over the legal requests that Donald Trump is making.
Yes, but Destiny, that's the problem.
That's what we're focused on.
But that's
this is a problem. I agree.
But Destiny, right there is the problem, is that people are only talking about this. Remember, before the debate, 2/3 of all Democrat voters wanted Biden to stand aside because they were worried he was too old. What do you think they think now? No one's changing their mind on that. If anything, I'd be amazed if it's not 90%. And that's the problem. You've got so many things to attack Trump about, but nobody wants to hear it. When has Trump ever been in a debate where the next day the headlines weren't all about him? It's never happened. But now the only thing that anyone...
Yes, it has. Hasn't it?
One will look for with Biden in the next 5 months is him showing further evidence of mental and physical decline. Let me bring in Tommy. This is going to be the greatest period to be a Donald Trump in a presidential race ever, because he just has to keep allowing his opponent to do stupid things and say dumb stuff and look exhausted and lose his train of thought. That's all he has to do.
Right. And I'd also like to make the point, and I know that the liberals on this panel are going to have a collective hemorrhoid when I say it, but even if former President Donald Trump was...
I hate to be that bitch, but does she have ptosis on her eye? Girlfriend, botched Botox. Fix it.
Wasn't standing next to a vegetable last Thursday, he still would have performed excellently, and he did. He got his points across. He was able to finesse some of the issues like abortion in a way that I've always been concerned about, but I think he did a great job. So I also want to point that out. But as I've said, I don't think they're going to keep with Joe Biden. I know that all the Democrats say, well, they have to because of this and that. Logistically, they have to keep with him. You can't keep along with somebody who in the next several months is going to go downhill even more steeply. This is not going to be a linear decline. It is going to accelerate. Anybody who's watched an elderly person decline this way knows it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And I think there needs to be more of a discussion about just how evil First Lady Jill Biden is, that she is standing by as her husband is going through this. This is truly evil. Why she's not pulling him aside and saying enough's enough just shows that she is so hungry for power.
Or maybe he just doesn't have the fucking capacity. Dimwit. I've never used that term.
Willing to embarrass and let her husband embarrass himself that way. Shame on her.
Yeah, Francesca, I got to say, I agree with that. I think I've interviewed Dr. Biden about 10 years ago now, and I've watched him the last couple of days, and I'm seeing somebody who seems even more desperate not to give this up than Joe Biden is. And surely
Okay, this isn't helping me. We're prepping for a debate that we're not in. Let's do Stop It, Loci. Stop it. Tristan Tate's lies are getting sadder and more pathetic. Ooh, that sounds good, but that's not related. Okay. Donald Trump. Worst things he said. The 90 most shocking things he said during an election. This is from 7 years ago, though. Okay, back. Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us.
Oh.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
Who's number one with Hispanics? Trump.
Yes, you told us
Trump.
that earlier.
I love the Mexican people in their spirit, but the country of Mexico is killing us. I want to build a wall. I'm going to build a wall. I want to build the wall. We need the wall.
And Mexico will pay for the wall.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
And it's really weak to call John McCain a loser because he was a...
I never called him. No, I don't call
That
him
is
a-
outrageous. He's an American hero.
I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero. 5.5 years. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you. And then I watched this idiot Lindsey Graham on television today, and he calls me a jackass. He's a jackass. The man of the toupee.
Kind of are.
This is on the front page of the New York Times. I don't wear a toupee.
Donald Trump is the kind of guy that goes into a Mexican restaurant like, hola. Or is that just like white people in general? Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué pasó? Cerveza, por favor, mi amor.
I'll prove once and for all that it's mine, okay? Come. Is it mine? Look.
It is.
It is. Say it, please.
Yes, I believe it is.
Thank you.
Yes, I believe
I have
it
such
is.
respect for women. I cherish women.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs,
His face.
and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account.
Only
has
Rosie
several-
O'Donnell. I love the women that faint when I speak. Those are the ones that love me.
No, go ahead, Donald.
No, I'm a gentleman, Hillary. Go ahead. What I say is what I say. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You brag that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. Every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you. You take a look at her.
Wait, why?
Look at her
Why does he have such small hands?
words. You tell me what
strong
you think.
hand.
I don't think so. All of these liars will be sued after the election is over. I'm going to take such good care of women's health care issues, you won't even believe it.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to
The answer is that. Sorry.
be some form of punishment.
For the woman.
Yeah, there has to be some form. Such a nasty woman.
Trust fund.
I have tremendous respect for women.
Have you ever
and
done those
women
things?
Have respect for me. But I'm surging with women. I think Hillary would be a terrible president. Well, I think the only card she has is the woman's card. She's got nothing else going. And frankly, if Hillary Clinton were a man, I don't think she'd get 5% of the vote. She's a world-class liar. Just look at her pathetic email server statements. She's crooked Hillary. Don't you understand that? This is one of the most crooked politicians in history. This is the legacy of Hillary Clinton. Death, destruction, terrorism, and weakness. She's the devil. Hillary Clinton is a bigot. I was going to say something extremely rough to Hillary, to her family, and I said to
Wait, seriously, why does he have such small hands?
myself,
They did him dirty.
I can't do it.
It's
I just
like-
can't do it. If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse. Mine are words and his was action. His was what he's done to women. There's never been anybody in the history of politics in this nation that's been so abusive to women.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
She has tremendous hate in her heart. Wouldn't that be embarrassing to lose to crooked Hillary Clinton? That would be terrible.
Is there anybody you'd like to apologize to right now yourself?
No.
No?
I think I would probably get along very well with Putin. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. Hillary likes to play tough with Russia. Putin looks at her and he laughs, okay? He laughs.
He'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
He looks sharp right now. I like that outfit.
I know nothing about Russia. Talking about Gitmo, right? Guantanamo Bay, which by the way, we are keeping open. And we're going to load it up with some bad dudes. Believe me, we're going to load it up. Would I approve waterboarding? You bet your ass I'd approve it. You bet your ass. In a heartbeat. And I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding. I want surveillance of certain mosques, okay? If that's okay. Because they are recruiting by the thousands. They're leaving our country. And then when they come back, we take them back. Oh, come on back. Where were you? I was fighting for ISIS. Oh, come on back. Go home. Enjoy yourself. I will absolutely take database on the people coming in from Syria if we can't stop it, but we're going to. I've made it known. If I win, they're going back. ISIS.
This isn't really helping either. Hold on. Sending tots and pairs. When waterboarding. Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Okay. What do you guys think is a good stream to watch? Has anybody done the insurrection debate? Probably. Hold on. Sweet dreams are made of this. My hands are on fire. Wait, Destiny did this debate with Alex Jones? Did I get that right? Rob Noir. Okay.
Comey went public. Fuck, what was this article that just going to be related to Loretta Lynch?
He was great in office. Would vote again. Donald Trump 6'3".
Okay, this is from the IG report. I'll link it to you. I don't know that this is the part that I'm fully talking about because I'm just using the search feature on it. But I'll start to read the initial part where it starts to talk about Anthony Weiner's laptop. Ready? It's not true. He would have thought, you're not looking hard enough. Clearly the evidence is there. I heard this person say this. And you might say that makes Trump an idiot if he's listening to the MyPillow guy over
Okay,
Bill
in
Barr.
that case then, so then in that case, in every single criminal conviction for the into the perpetuity into all the rest of humankind or whatever, as long as somebody is telling you that something might be possible, you can no longer ever be acting in bad faith or with ill intent. As long as there's somebody telling you that.
It's boring me. Let's find something else. Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I? Wait, conservators?
Didn't have a right to take them because he was VP anyway. Those documents, he should be prosecuted for it. I don't disagree with you. And now him having them for a year and holding on to them and knowing they were classified, knowing he wasn't supposed to have them, that points out criminality. Totally get that. Now, under that same vein and under the fact that nobody is above the law, that we know from transcripts from Robert Hur during interviews, during interviews that in 2018, Biden was aware that he had classified documents that he wasn't supposed to have. We know that. He even said to his ghostwriter, he said they just found the classified documents downstairs. So that it's not debatable whether or not he knows he had them. So that would be 2018, where he's not in office. And he didn't have a right to take them because he was VP anyway. And then he had them, and then he didn't turn them in until late 2023. So that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 years of knowingly retaining classified documents that he does not have a right to. So under the idea that nobody's above the law, he should certainly be prosecuted too.
Sure. If you want to charge him with a crime, go for it.
Okay. No, that's just what I wanted to clarify, because I was hearing that because the question got asked where you were asked earlier, what about Biden having those documents? And you definitely did not answer that question. You said you wanted him to answer your question first, so you never got the answer to that. So I was just curious,
Well, because the whataboutism is just like silly that like the documents case of what Trump is facing is like the least of the concerns. I would say that the whole conspiracy to defraud the American public and throw the election, I would say is like the bigger concern. But yeah, if you want to charge Biden with a crime or whatever, knock yourself out, charge him and see how it goes in court, I guess. Yeah.
So, no, I'm not asking about charging. What I'm asking is, so you believe that Trump is a criminal for what he did with the classified documents? So then that
well, hold on. Do I believe that? Well, hold on. Wait. No. I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify. Hold on. When we say, do I think someone is a criminal? I think that from what I've seen in the indictments, I think that Donald Trump is rightfully charged with the things that he's indicted for. Now, is he a criminal? Well, he would have to go to court, and if he's convicted, then he would be. Well, I guess right now he is. Well, maybe we'll see if he gets thrown out, I guess, after the Supreme Court ruling. If he beats the conviction or whatever, for whatever reason, then he wouldn't be a criminal. But I think that the charges, I think, are warranted. Yes.
So you would feel that even if the courts found him innocent, let him go, there wouldn't be any videos about how he got away with it because it was a judge he put in there. It would just be that's the way the justice system works, and he's obviously innocent.
If he went through the court process and assuming there wasn't like anything unhinged or insane that happened, then yeah, I mean, sometimes people you don't like win in court. Like it happens. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it happens. Be like, okay, well, he won. He survived the process. Yeah.
I'm just saying that under your line of thinking, if we're being logically consistent, then the current occupant of the White House committed criminal activity.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just supporting a criminal. Something you accuse conservatives of doing a lot.
No, it's not really about supporting a criminal. I don't think I've used that phrase a single time in here. So the problem is you come under here with the assumption that I'm as much of a cowardly as you are, and that I won't hold my side to account because you won't hold your side to account. If you think that Biden had done, the fact that you had to walk me through 5 minutes of wasted time to say, if you think that Biden, there's reasonable suspicion or probable cause he committed a crime, would you support charges against him? And if he did do it, yeah, of course I would. Fine, charge him, convict him, whatever the fuck. Sure. The problem isn't that I don't even know if you could perceive my character from the puddle on the ground that you move around in. Okay.
We had perceived your character as a 30-year-old man that traveled across the world to go fuck a 18-year-old girl.
Okay. Well, now I'm a 35-year-old man. I'm gonna travel across the world to go fuck your mom. Okay. All I'm saying is that the reason. Wait, hold on. Wait, real quick. Don't cut him off. Hold on. I'm just saying. Wait.
Hands, please.
Yeah, wait, hold on, real quick.
You guys have resorted to insults now. I think.
Wait, no, it's okay. We love insults.
No,
okay, it's fine. Hold on, just as a real quick thing, okay? I don't care if people support like a.
Real quick, and then I would like to move on to Lauren, please.
Wait, hold on, wait. Aren't I half the owner of the space? Let the guy finish. Hold on. I just want to make one point, and then he can make one point, and you can move on to Lauren again, okay? Oh, no Canadian favoritism here, okay?
Co-host instead.
Am I not a co-host?
No, you're just a speaker.
Okay, well, just...
Okay, go on. Finish your point.
Yes,
Sorry, interrupting. Then we'll move on to Lauren. Finish your point.
Sure. Okay, yeah, well, then give him the last word, okay? I don't care. Like, supporting a criminal is not my thing. It's supporting an insurrectionist. That's what I've said since the very beginning. I'm sure that if you go through a lot of people's actions, you might be able to find crimes. Maybe you could charge them for it. Maybe they'd even get convicted for it. My issue right now is not the documents case with Donald Trump. That's just one of the 4 indictments that he was facing. The 2 huge ones, the Georgia one and the big federal one, the Jack Smith one about insurrection. Those are the 2 massive things, okay? I don't even know if you want to support a president who's had criminal charges, who did criminal behavior, I don't even think that's necessarily anti-American, depending on what you're criminally charged with. There's a whole host of like stupid things there where it's like, that's criminal, you should probably be held accountable for it, but it's not like anti-American. Supporting an insurrection absolutely is.
It's not anti-American to not actually keep track of classified documents that put our classified activities in danger. That's not anti-American. That's not.
I mean, it would depend. It would depend on.
As somebody who spent 10 years in the Army, I know that anybody that misplaced any classified materials in the Army, if you misplaced even a low-level classified document, one of them, you were going to lose rank, you were going to lose pay, you were very likely going to be getting jail in the Army. You're definitely going to be discharged from the military. So
Wait, so that, hold on, just as a real quick thing. You probably, I mean, you could be discharged, you could lose your job, you could lose rank, whatever. Likely criminally charged? Probably not.
Here's the thing. First of all, as somebody who worked in the crypto side of the army, yes, you will be criminally charged. In fact, I've seen people be criminally charged. I've seen soldiers be criminally charged for losing a crypto device in a Humvee that was blown the fuck up. So yes,
yeah, no, that doesn't happen. No, that doesn't happen. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I'll tweet you. I'll tweet you the guy.
Yeah, that's great.
I was just going to add something real quick. I would say that's
sorry, Myron, thanks for coming in, and thanks for coming on. I know I usually troll you pretty hard, but we can put that aside for now. Lauren had her hand up, and then I believe it was Christian Lamar, and then we can go. Let's do the hands. Let's get through the hands that people have been waiting patiently for, and then we can get to you. I'm willing to host the space as long as Destiny's willing. Okay, is that cool?
Am I supposed to say yes to that?
Go ahead.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, listening to this, it sounds like whenever you go back to the electors stuff, you make it sound very cut and dry. Like this was an insurrection. This was extremely deliberate, extremely illegal. Like, how could they? This has never been done before in the country's history. But when I read about it a bit, like fake certificates, this is from AP News. Fake certificates were submitted in the battleground states of Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. In New Mexico and Pennsylvania, fake electors added caveat saying the certificate was submitted in case they were later recognized as duly elected qualified electors. That would only have been possible if Trump had won any of several dozen legal battles he waged against states in the weeks after the election. Republican Party of New Mexico Chairman Steve Piers said Friday that the state faced numerous election challenges that had the possibility of going before a court. Therefore, he said the GOP electors cast their votes by the deadline written within federal statute in the event the election outcome changed. And Democratic Attorney General Torres agrees that the Republican electors did not violate the law, but now he wants to criminalize the process used by both Democrats and Republicans.
There's nothing I want to do less. You lose me when you're like, Senator blah 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 said this, and then this person said, it's like I know that's stupid for me to get annoyed by it, but like, are we enjoying this? Because I'm not. I can't follow. I want to sing.
1960 presidential election in which Democrat electors in Hawaii cast votes for John F. Kennedy, despite that state initially being called for Republican Richard Nixon. So this sounds like a little more complicated than just this cut and dry, like Trump was trying to steal the election with his electors.
Hold on. Why the whole point of submitting the false slates of electors were so that Vice President Pence would choose them when Congress was counting the votes in order to choose the false slates of electors, or to use them to cause confusion, to throw it back to the House delegation, to just make Trump the president. There is no part of that that is a legitimate or legal process.
Well, then why did the Attorney General, the Democrat Attorney General, agree that the electors did not violate the law?
Saying that somebody didn't violate a particular criminal statute in a state speaks nothing to the federal case of the criminal conspiracy to overturn the election. It might be that in 2 states, maybe they found a carve-out or a caveat to avoid criminal charges, but the electorates were not chosen by that state, and the goal of those electorates was not to represent the actual voters of the state. The goal was for Pence to unilaterally declare Trump the president in Congress using a variety of means.
All right, I'll read the indictments and we can have a debate about this at a further date, but it definitely seems like a little more complex.
It's absolutely not. I know it seems that way, but it's just because it's the first time you've ever read it into it in your entire life, and now you're trying to nibble around the edges of like, well, actually, the way they crossed this T on this particular thing, maybe I know, and I'm going to love when you come back and you're like, oh, well, actually.
Can somebody tell me what I should YouTube that he's talking about? Low. No, baby. Rue, you gotta move so she can jump on there too. You're being a bitch. Mike Pence, Congress, and what?
Actually, well, if you actually look in 17, or actually in the year 1427, there was a British king once, and he talked to the Lord, and when they were doing their play electorate college for their children, they actually did this thing, and the Commonwealth bullshit. The people voted in a certain way. The electorate slates were not contested. This has never been a thing that's been contested. And Donald Trump just laid out in a whole thing. As part of your reading, you should Google Eastman memo, and you
Stop,
can read the whole
Lokai.
plan. Nothing about that is democratic. Nothing about that is legal. It hinged on them assuming that the electoral count was unconstitutional and that they would be able to challenge it on the floor and have it thrown to the court while they cause mayhem and seat Trump as president. No part of this comes off as like a legal democratic process, even if an individual actor in a state might avoid state criminal charges for it.
Great, I will read it because I sure as shit am not taking your word for it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, we can go to
Yeah.
It was
Christian.
Christian. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So I got a question for Destiny. Do you first of all you live in the United States, right?
Unfortunately,
Correct.
right now, yeah.
Okay. And do you know? I'm assuming you're a citizen here. So do you know what kind of country you live in, as far as the type of government is the country? Are the three branches of government, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, are the three branches of government, do those three branches equal a democracy?
Do those three, are you trying to quiz me on structures of government? I'm pretty sure democracy just means that the people vote on things.
No.
I think a republic means you've got representatives that create legislation for you. I think we're considered a democratic republic, but we're also a constitutional republic. It's a constitution that sources the three separate branches of power. I don't know. What are you trying to quiz me on to see if I don't know it? It's some fucking trivia of American government. Yeah, tell me. What are you asking?
Okay, so you, because again, of all the things that you have said,
Okay, I asked ChatGPT. So take what you will. Take what you will. I'm gonna move that. Lokai, you can jump. Rue, move. Let your sister on the fucking bed. Rue, you're being a bitch. She just doesn't fucking move at all. Okay. According to ChatGPT. Pressure on Pence. Public pressure from Trump. Donald Trump repeatedly and publicly pressured Mike Pence to reject the certified electoral votes from certain states that Trump claimed had experienced voter fraud. This included a rally on January 6th where Trump urged Pence to do the right thing. Number 2. Rue. Jump, little guy. Hold on. God damn it.
so is
The country is a
word-
democracy.
One
Yes.
second,
Yes.
one second. So is the word democratic, democracy, or Democrat written in the text of the U.S. Constitution?
I don't know if it's written in the text of the U.S. Constitution, but voting is. And
Okay. So I'll answer it for you. It's not. Okay. So you have first of all, Article 2.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Wait. Before you go on this whole yap fest, are you gonna try to make the argument to me that the United States is not a democracy? Is that?
It's not a democracy. It's not.
How do you define democracy?
Because you said that it would be okay with shooting someone if they did not believe or agree.
Okay, hold on. You got it, Lokai. Okay, number 2. Legal and theoretical arguments. Trump's legal team and allies promoted the theory. Baby low. Lokai. Jump. You got it. Come on, baby. Come on, mamas. You got it. Do you need some help? You got it, mamas. You got it. Go on, mama. You got it. Good job, babe. Sorry, that took a hot minute. Okay. Let's start that over. So, according to ChatGPT, there was pressure on Pence. Hold on. Mike Pence, as Vice President of the United States, played a critical role in the certification of the Electoral College results on January 6, 2021. Leading up to this date, there was significant pressure from then President Donald Trump and his supporters for Pence to take actions that could potentially overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. However, Pence did not engage in any sketchy actions to keep Trump in office. Here's a breakdown. Pressure on Pence, public pressure from Trump. Trump repeatedly and publicly pressured Mike Pence to reject the certified electoral votes from certain states that Trump claimed had experienced voter fraud. This included a rally on January 6th where Trump urged Pence to do the right thing. Number 2, legal and theoretical arguments. Trump's legal team and allies promoted the theory that the vice president had the unilateral power to reject electoral votes or send them back to the states for recertification. This theory was largely based on the interpretation of the Electoral Count Act and the Constitution. Okay, so it's a theory. Excuse me. Okay, Pence's actions. Number 1, constitutional role. Pence's role during the certification process was largely ceremonial. The Constitution and the Electoral Count Act of 1887 outlined that the vice president's duty is to proceed over the joint session of Congress and announce the results, not to alter them. Okay. Oh, it's hot as fuck in here. Okay, number 2, statement on January 6th. Before the joint session of Congress, Pence released a letter stating that he did not believe he had the authority to decide which electoral votes should be counted, adhering to a strict constitutional interpretation. What? I don't know this shit. Certification of the vote. Despite the pressure and the chaos of the Capitol riot, Pence proceeded with the certification of the Electoral College results, affirming Joe Biden's victory. Okay. Legal interpretations and expert opinions. Number 1, lack of legal authority. Legal scholars and constitutional experts widely agree that the vice president does not have the authority to reject electoral votes. This interpretation was reinforced by Pence's own legal team and advisors. Number 2, court rulings. Several court cases filed by Trump and his allies to overturn the election results were dismissed due to lack of evidence and legal standing. Conclusion: Mike Pence did not engage in any actions to subvert the election results in favor of Trump. Despite the intense pressure and unfounded legal theories, Pence adhered to his constitutional duty, upheld the results of the election. Okay. But expound on that. How red my hands are. Interpretation of the Electoral Count Act of 1887. The act's ambiguity. The Electoral Count Act of 1887 was designed to provide procedures for counting electoral votes and resolving disputes. However, the language of the act is somewhat ambiguous. Hold on, I have to ask something. If A believes the action Okay, so I was like, if the president believes that the election was stolen, who should he contact? Number 1, contact legal counsel. The president should consult with their legal team to explore the legal avenues available for challenging the election results. This includes understanding the laws, regulations governing elections, and any potential evidence of fraud or irregularities. Number 2, file legal challenges. If there is credible evidence of election fraud, the president's legal team should file suits in the appropriate courts to contest the election results. This typically involves submitting evidence and legal arguments to state and federal courts. Number 3, engage state election officials. The president should contact state election officials in the contested states to request recounts or audits of the election results. This can include secretaries of state, election boards, and other relevant authorities. Number 4, request federal investigation. President can request that federal agencies such as Department of Justice, the DOJ, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, investigate allegations of widespread election fraud. These agencies can assess the credibility of the claims and whatever. Number 5, use legislative channels. The president can engage with members of Congress to address the issue through legislative means. This may involve urging Congress to hold hearings or investigations into the election process and any alleged irregularities. Okay. Number 6, this one will shock you. Goddamn. Public communication. The president should communicate transparency with the public about their concerns and the steps they are taking to address them. This includes making public statements, holding press conferences, and using social media to provide updates. Star that one. Follow constitutional processes. Throughout the process, the president must adhere to the constitutional and legal frameworks that govern the resolution of election disputes. This ensures that any actions taken are legitimate and uphold the— okay, wait, so was it a good idea to go to Pence? This is how much I don't know. It was not considered a good idea. Okay, hold on. Wait. Not overturn. For example, in Georgia, Trump could have directed his legal team to contact Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, whatever, who oversees the state's elections. In Georgia, a hand recount was conducted, which reaffirmed Biden's victory. In Wisconsin, Trump's campaign requested a partial recount in 2 counties, which also reaffirmed Biden's victories. I asked ChatGPT if what sneaky shit has Trump done that not many people know about. It's like one of my favorite things to ask. What are some facts that many people don't know? Nothing that we haven't heard, you know, tax practices, overinflating his assets. Okay, Trump Tower. The value of business. Oh, okay. Non-disclosure agreements, foreign business dealings. Trump's business dealings in Russia and other countries have raised eyebrows. For example, the Trump organization pursued a real estate deal in Moscow during the 2016 campaign, which was not disclosed to the public at the time. Why? I mean, why did you buy something there? Gardens. Whoa, wait. Sorry. Do you use any custom chat GPTs? Oh, no. No. Sometimes I just use it like Google. And to like organize stuff. What's your favorite thing to use chat GPT for? And what's your favorite like trick, hack, whatever? Put it in the chat. Trump's critics argue that his attempts to undermine the 2020 election results, including pressuring officials to overturn the results, inciting the January 6th Capitol riot, and disparaging the judiciary when rulings did not go his way, were attacks on democratic institutions. Hey. Hey. Sorry. Former President Donald Trump and his allies have been reported to be preparing measures for a potential authoritarian regime if he wins the 2024 election. This includes plans to invoke the Insurrection Act on his first day, to deploy the military against protests, politicize the Department of Justice, and prosecute former aides and officials who criticized him. Trump has expressed intentions to fill the federal bureaucracy with loyalists who would support his actions, which could lead to significant challenge. Yeah, okay, Politico. Leading Trump's Insurrection Act initiatives is Jeffrey Clark, a Trump-era Department of Justice official currently being prosecuted for his part in an alleged scheme to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. According to the Post piece, Trump intends to leave the entire federal bureaucracy with appointees like Clark who are willing to do his bidding. Told by a colleague that there would be riots in the streets if Trump sought to stay in office despite losing the 2020 election. Clark is said to have responded, "That's why there's an Insurrection Act." However critically you think of the team Trump assembled in his first administration, he could never convince them to conduct prosecutions of either of his political opponents or officials who defied him. The next time around, we won't be lucky if he succeeds in peppering the Department of Justice and other agencies with his yes men. Can he get away with it? It's not illegal for a president to instruct an attorney general on how to do his job as long as those instructions are consistent with the law. But lining up presidential critics for prosecution, as Trump appears ready to do, makes a mockery of that consistency, especially when no laws appear to have been broken. This is an opinion piece. by putting us on notice that he plans to punish his past foes and presumably his future foes. With the justice system, Trump has given us a head start and is blocking his future lawlessness. These promises, call them campaign promises, deserve full scrutiny from the press. Trump claims that his current promises of prosecution are a matter of payback. Prosecutors in Georgia and New York and in the federal government prosecuted him for what he considers political reasons. So he thinks that frees him to return the favor to his foes. The Trump equation doesn't balance. Remember, it was his style to call for the jailing of his foes long before any indictment landed on his doorstep. Also, Trump's alleged crimes have been named, delineated with supporting evidence, accepted for trial by an independent judiciary. Any counterclaim by Trump, such as the recent one where he insisted he's an American Nelson Mandela, is complete fantasy. Sorry, it's just funny. Again, we've been warned. Trump doesn't just want to be president. He wants to be prosecutor, judge, jury, and jailer too. Why doesn't he just come clean and announce his campaign for dictator? Kind of like this style of writing. I'm going to put it in the chat in case anybody wants to read it. Hi, Miguel. No, it wasn't about the 2025 agenda. So who's everyone voting for? Let's see if I can find a video on the Georgia and New York. New York. You want to be friends? We're not going to be friends. Camisoles, bustiers, panties. Okay, wait. It's a good dictator. Wait, MTG asks Secret Service Director if there was a conspiracy to kill President Trump. Should we watch it?
It wasn't just that building. There were a number of buildings in the area, and there was overwatch that was created to help mitigate some of those buildings.
Respectfully, Dr. Cheadle, as well, as a person who has experienced an enormous amount of threat incidents, including incidents that have never been reported publicly, there's a common pattern that happens here, whether it's Secret Service, FBI, Capitol Police, local departments. After a critical security failure, we often hear there will be an independent investigation. That independent investigation gets set up. Usually the expectation is between 2 to 3 months after the incident, and then nothing really occurs from there. The report is usually not satisfactory to the questions that are usually being raised here. And most importantly, corrective action is rarely taken. If I were to state anything that I think is profoundly important, is that we need to have answers to the public. Ideally, I would encourage you and the agency to be more forthright with the members that still have yet to have their questioning, because the public deserves to have full confidence and the stakes are too high. The violence that could break out in this political moment, regardless of party, in the event of someone getting hurt, constitutes a national security threat to the entire country. Thank you, and I yield back.
Could I go back to something you
Yes,
said?
please, feel free, Director.
Ma'am, if I could just speak to something you said at the outset when you started your questioning. I want to assure you and everyone on this committee that I'm not waiting for a report to take action. We have been conducting analysis all along, and we have been adding additional features to our security details since this incident occurred.
And I'd hope you can highlight and illuminate what some of those are in the event of other members questioning as well.
Very good. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I request unanimous consent for that photo to go into the official record.
Without objection, to ordered.
Thank you, Director. Your agency has a no-fail mission, and on Saturday, July 13th, your agency spectacularly failed. The failure resulted in the death of Corey Comparatore and serious injury to two other rally attendees, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, besides the injuries to President Trump. It is unfathomable that a 20-year-old on the radar of Secret Service and local law enforcement before President Trump went on stage was able to climb onto the roof of a building with a rifle and fire off multiple rounds before he was neutralized. Was Mr. Crooks acting alone?
Again, I would have to refer you to the FBI's investigation.
Was he just a lone gunman?
I would have to refer you to the FBI's investigation for motive.
What did the Technical Services Division determine was going to be the event perimeter?
Those are questions that we are asking, and we're.
I mean, you're sitting here today. Come on, Director. Everybody said this. You knew you were going to be asked that question because it's been asked multiple times. So this is an easy one. What did they determine was going to be the event perimeter? So you should know that. I mean, this is not, gee, I got to wait till someone else tells me. What was it?
Again, I don't want to speak to specifics of the event.
Okay, this is a specific.
I understand.
This is a specific that you ought to know. As someone who said the buck stops with me, I'm going to stay in my job. I'm going to give the answers to the American people, and I know what happened, except for you're not going to tell us. And you're not going to tell the American people. And you yourself said in an interview that foments this notion of conspiracy theories. Guess what? When you sit here and repeatedly tell people, hey, I have to wait, as it frustrated everybody on this committee, guess what? It undermines your credibility and whether you're really going to get to it. So I'm going to ask you again, what did the Technical Service Division determine was going to be the event perimeter?
We are still gathering reports. We are interviewing individuals.
You know what it is, though. No, you're just not going to tell us, right?
When I have those details, I will most certainly share those.
Was the gun already on the roof, or did the shooter carry the gun up with him?
I do not have that information at this time.
Well, when was the last sweep of that roof done prior to the rally?
I do not have that information at this time.
So, how many holds? I mean, so most of us here have been in events, and Secret Service has been there. There's been security, and I can't tell you how many times we've said there's going to be a security hold right here. So we're going to wait, and we wait to 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, and yet we're hearing from you apparently that there were no holds in place. So ever instituted here with President Trump's going on stage, and you said. And this is, I think, connected with this. You said they hadn't adjudicated the shooter to be a threat. He was adjudicated to be a suspicious person, even though we've got some dynamic video that Mr. Krishnamurthy put on the video for us. So I guess my question for you is, and I think you answered this, I just want to see if you're consistent with what you said about an hour and a half ago. What do you do if a suspicious person is identified by the agency?
So at a number of our events, it is not unusual.
I know it's not unusual. What do you do?
Those individuals that are identified as suspicious, we will send teams out
Was a team sent out here then?
There were teams that were sent to identify and interview that individual.
They were sent to interview the individual who's scampered up in camo on top of a roof within 130 yards of his target. And did your team get there? When did your team get there to conduct that interview?
I don't have the details on the timeline. It is my
so if they did send a team and they're going to interview him, and you described that earlier as an investigation, why didn't they put a security hold on President Trump going on stage at that rally?
At a number of our protective sites, there are suspicious individuals that are identified all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that they constitute a threat.
Of course not. But here you got a guy scampering up the side of a building on top of a roof. It's identified to you, and you said you sent a team there, and you can't answer that. And this gets to one of my finer points, Mr. Chairman, if I can make it, and that is, we can have these kind of interview sessions, 5 minutes. Everybody gets a kiss at the pig, 5 minutes, and she gets to stonewall us, not deliver answers. So we say, okay, we're going to put together a congressional committee, a blue ribbon committee. Same crap will happen. I am calling, and I'll support that, but I will tell you this, I am calling on the Speaker to give us and put together a truly independent commission of qualified former Secret Service agents, presidential and VIP protective services people who can actually conduct this kind of investigation and give us real answers, because I don't think you're going to give us those answers. You should have come today ready to give us answers. I call upon you to resign today. And I also would say I've got a bunch of UC requests, if I can go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Proceed with the request.
Thank you. I apologize. It might
That's all right. Go ahead.
It might take a moment.
Very important.
Anthony Guglielmi, the Secret Service spokesman, one from him.
Without objection, so ordered.
Article, U.S. Secret Service says it previously denied Trump requests for additional resources, New York Times reports.
Without objection, so ordered.
Secret Service says it denied earlier Trump requests for more federal resources.
Without objection, so ordered.
Secret Service acknowledges denying some past requests by Trump's campaign for tighter security.
Without objection, so ordered.
Preliminary findings by Senator Ron Johnson and his committee.
Without objection, so ordered.
Articles entitled, Notice Anything Different About Trump's Secret Service detailed. Next, former Biden official corrects herself after saying Dems must turn their fire on Donald Trump to beat him. Secret Service director says buck stops with her, but she will not resign. Disney Star Wars Mark Hamill cracks joke about Trump's ear bandage following assassination attempt. Biden, I haven't engaged in inciting rhetoric. Trump has. I'm just talking about threat to democracy. Piece called Who is Secret Service Chief Kimberly Cheadle? Charlemagne the God says Trump solely responsible for violent rhetoric that led to attempt on his life. Video actress Amanda Seales pushes conspiracy theory Donald Trump assassination trip was staged. Report Secret Service identified rooftop as a potential vulnerability days before the rally. Watch BlackRock removes ad showing former President Donald Trump's would-be assassin. Why does the Biden administration have 100% confidence Secret Service after assassination attempt? Secret Service director, we didn't put snipers on the roof because it was kind of sloped. Here's what Thomas Matthew Crooks did in the days leading up to Trump assassination attempt. Secret Service director under scrutiny for diversity initiatives after Trump assassination attempt. The official story on Trump shooting makes no sense at all. Andrew McCabe says Trump assassination.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. I'm happy to assent to all of them. I just so as to facilitate.
You don't want me to read?
Proceedings.
Is it too tedious?
Well, we're not even really hearing them anyway. So if we could, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
You would like me to I'll slow it down. I was probably going too fast. Secret Service's explanations for security failures ahead of Trump assassination attempt are not adding up. U.S. reportedly received intel of Iranian plot to assassinate President Trump. What WTH? Secret Service now saying that they didn't put any agents on the roof because slight slope was too dangerous. Report, U.S. officials received intel of Iranian plot to assassinate Donald Trump before Crook's attempt. Exclusive GOP rep Cloud. Homeland Security Agency is interfering in House's assassination investigation. Why Trump's raised fist after surviving assassination attempt is triggering the liberal media. Questions swirl over the security lapse at Trump rally, reviving old concerns about Secret Service. Secret Service scrambles to shift blame after Trump shooting as backlash hits hard. Nobody contacted me. Must see 6-camera split screen of assassination attempt captures everything shooter was in open 2+ minutes. Murillo, 5 reasons you should be angry. Breaking, shooter spotted up to 30 minutes before firing, reported multiple times. Pictures taken, no one stopped him. Cheadle calls the 30 minutes between noticing and neutralizing shooter a very short period of time. Secret Service director says buck stops with me on Trump assassination attempt, but won't resign.
Mr. Biggs, we'll stop right there. We can retake them on the next one. I know there are more, but without objection, we'll enter into the record all of those, and we'll take up the others after the next speaker. Chair now recognizes Ms. Brown from Ohio for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first want to highlight certain comments from Ranking Member Raskin, my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, President Biden and Vice President Harris, and that is political violence is completely unacceptable in this country, full stop. It is an assault on our democracy itself, and I am devastated by this attack on a candidate for the president, for the office of the highest office in the land, and continue to pray for the victims of this shooting and their families. As someone who has known gun violence firsthand, no one should have to experience the pain of losing a loved one to weapons of war. It is deeply unfortunate political violence has become far too common. Whether it is the deadly attack on the Capitol on January 6th, the assault on Speaker Pelosi's husband, or the threats of violence against election workers, we all must work to condemn political violence and tone down the rhetoric. So, Director Cheadle, on behalf of the hardworking men and women of the Secret Service, can you give us some perspective as into what goes into securing an event like the rally? Like, how much time do you have to prepare?
Thank you for the question. Generally, when we receive notification that there's going to be an event taking place at a venue, the advance team assignments are made, and there is a 5-day process to conduct walkthroughs, coordinate with staff, local staff, and whether it be campaign staff or the protectees staff, and then with local law enforcement on where the perimeter is going to be, the size and the scope of the event, how many attendees there are going to be, if it's an indoor rally, outdoor rally, what sort of assets are available locally, what sort of assets the Secret Service can bring to bear, and what the scope of the event that the staff is trying to accomplish.
So to that point, how many agents were recommended or requested as opposed to how many were assigned?
So I'm not going to get into specifics of how many were assigned, but those numbers that were requested were provided.
And how many local agents were involved in the preparation, if you will, that you talked about, that 5-day preparation?
So there were a number of local agents from the local office, as well as agents from the former Trump detail that were involved in that advance process.
Do we have a number?
I do have a number. I'm not going to release that number in this setting.
You're not making this easy for us. This is a shocking incident on the former president's life and an appalling instance of political violence and a threat to our democratic values. I'm thankful that the former president is on the mend. And again, I'm grieving for the family and friends of Corey Compatore, who lost a loved one in this shooting and now know the unbearable pain of gun violence. I really hope this serves as a reminder about our responsibility to attack policies, not personalities, to be honest and truthful, and to treat one another with dignity, respect, and thoughtfulness. And with that, I yield my remaining time to Ranking Member Raskin.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, for those very powerful and moving remarks. Director Cheadle, we don't want to lose a presidential candidate to an AR-15 attack. We cannot lose a presidential candidate to an AR-15 attack, and we can't lose any more citizens to AR-15 mass violence, mass shootings. And we certainly don't want an attempted AR-15 assassination or assassination attempt to set off political violence or riots in America. So this is deadly serious business. The vice ranking member pointed out that
this is my second time getting Taco Bell tonight. It's fine. I'm fine.
A report in 60 days won't do it for us because we have a responsibility. Members of Congress have a responsibility to take action now if there's anything we can do to prevent this. So my question for you is, what is informing your operational decisions right now that you've invoked? without a report. Can you tell us what are the preliminary judgments, or if you don't want to foreshadow the report, fine. What are your personal professional judgments informing the operational decisions you're making right now?
Certainly, and I appreciate that question. I don't want to make any preliminary judgments on what happened on this particular day, but I can tell you that we have looked at, as we did immediately in the aftermath, what the security plan for the Republican National Convention was going to be, and we made adjustments to the interior of the perimeter there. We looked at the protectees that we have here in the Washington, D.C. area and our protective sites, and we did make some adjustments to their security posture. And as we continue to move through the next several weeks, even yesterday with the announcement of the president no longer running, we have made adjustments to the vice president's detail. We are already prepared for an eventual VP nominee, and we continue to make those assessments. I think it just shows how dynamic the environment is that this agency works in every day.
So you've made the same kinds of common sense judgments and intuitive recommendations that members of the public and members of Congress are asking about right now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
And before I recognize Ms. Mace, I have to say, Director, we're pretty close to the halfway point during this. You answered more questions with an ABC reporter than you have with members of Congress. We have a lot more questions. The American people are demanding that we get answers to those questions, and that's what the purpose of this hearing is today. So I'm sure a lot of the questions that have already been asked are going to be asked again, and hopefully we can get some answers to those questions. I strongly implore you to answer those questions. You're here with a subpoena, and we expect you to answer the questions. Chair now recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheadle, the American people are watching, and they're wondering if there are any questions you can answer honestly today. So, Director Cheadle, I have a series of questions, very specific questions. I want very specific answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter? Yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question. Yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent? Yes or no?
I have always been.
Yes or no? You didn't want to answer the question. We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way.
Right.
You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political? Yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection to ordered.
Okay. Is the Secret Service fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
Completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
I want to
Mr. I'm
Come
gonna
on.
We have to
continue.
maintain decorum in this committee,
Any,
no matter
have
how
you provided
upset we
any and
get.
all memos to this committee that we've asked you on July 15th? Have you provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
I would have to get back to you on
That is a no. You are being dishonest.
Literally, this is me. Like this, you're full of fucking shit.
Or lying. Like I just, you're being dishonest here with this committee. These are important questions that the American people want answers to, and you're just dodging and talking around it in generalities. And we had to subpoena you to be here, and you won't even answer the questions. We have asked you repeatedly to answer our questions. This isn't hard. These are not hard questions. Have you provided us all communications from the Secret Service related to that day and that rally? Have you provided this committee? We've asked for this information on July 15th. Have you provided any of this information that this committee has asked of the Secret Service? Any of it?
I'll have to get back to you.
Have you even read this letter that we sent you?
Will she like get in trouble? Like what's the big deal?
Did you even read this?
Yes.
Admit it.
Okay. And you have said you don't know, you have no idea. Well, the answer is no. We haven't gotten a single document or piece of information or data from you or your agency in related to the rally that we have asked you for. So was this attempted assassination of Donald Trump a failure of training or execution or both?
I think that those are answers that we need to
Training,
examine.
execution, or both? Which one?
I think those are answers.
All
we
right.
need to determine.
How many Secret Service personnel have lost their jobs due to this colossal failure?
At this time, none.
How many Secret Service personnel have been required to take a refresher course on how not to let people shoot Donald Trump?
Our personnel are currently operational. We are examining the facts of this investigation, and we will make the changes necessary.
What time did law enforcement become aware that there was an individual on the roof with a clear line of sight to President Trump?
Sorry.
I am still verifying timelines.
Are you kidding?
9 days in, you have no answers. How many minutes went by between the time law enforcement saw and took photos of crooks and the shooting? How many minutes?
I am still verifying timelines.
57 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Before I recognize Ms. Stansberry, I believe I want to recognize Mr. Mfume for a unanimous consent.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I beg your indulgence. I meant to do this earlier. I'd like to have unanimous consent that it be submitted for the record. The 2023 ranking of best and worst workplaces in the federal government, compiled by the Office of Personnel Management, which shows the United States Secret Service coming in, again, as I said earlier, 413th out of 459 sub-agencies, and this appears in the July 17th edition of Government Examiner.
Without objections ordered. Chair now recognizes Ms. Stansberry from New Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by just saying that part of why you have bipartisan agreement here on the dais about the severity and importance of this hearing is because this is not just a single shooting. This is about national security and the security of our democracy. It's not just one operational failure. This is about our public officials safe. And what does that signal to our country and to the world about American security and the ability of our officials to do their jobs safely? So I want to start by saying thank you to all of our brave men and women who are in the uniform, whether it's the Secret Service or local law enforcement, who put their lives on the line. I think obviously we honor their service, but this is really about operational failures and what it means for our country at large. And I also want to reaffirm that we must condemn unequivocally political violence of any kind, not just political violence, and that it cannot be tolerated in this democracy. And also to offer my prayers for the slain Fire Chief Corey Comprador, and also prayers for those who've been injured. Now, I think, the tone of this hearing is, how is it that a 20-year-old young man with a gun that was legally purchased by his father could, on the day of a rally, go to a gun shop, legally purchase ammunition, show up to a secured site, and then not only attempt an assassination of a political figure, but kill and injure two others? How could this happen? I'm not asking yet. I think we've had a lot of testimony here today. I want to talk a little bit about the timeline. Now, here's what we know, and I know, Director, you were also on the call that we had a few days ago with the FBI and other law enforcement, so I respect that you are not able to share, based on your testimony, some of the details that are currently being investigated, but I know you were on the call because I heard you on the call and you heard them too. So I'm going to lay out the timeline a little bit. On July 3rd, the rally was announced that it was going to be in Butler. On July 6th, 3 days later, we know that the shooter searched for dates for Trump and DNC events. On July 7th, so this is 4 days after the announcement, the shooter went to the site. He actually physically went to the site. On July 12th, the shooter went to a gun range where he and his dad regularly go and practiced shooting. And the next day, on July 13th, he went to the site again before the rally began. We know that he then went and searched online for a gun store where he went and he purchased 50 rounds of ammunition, went home, got his father's AR, which was legally purchased, and returned to the venue. At 5 p.m. that evening, this is more than an hour before Donald Trump actually took the stage that evening, local law enforcement were made aware that there was a suspicious man. In fact, at 5:20, local law enforcement flagged that he had a rangefinder, and they radioed their concerns and sent around pictures of the individual. At 5:40, 20 minutes before local law enforcement actually identified the shooter, and at 5:51, Secret Service was notified of the suspicious person by the state police, and 1 minute later they distributed that information. That was before Donald Trump even took the stage. That was 11 minutes before he took the stage. So the Secret Service was aware that there was a suspicious person. At 6:03, he took the stage. At 6:09, rally goers, as was shown in the video, identified this gentleman climbing on the roof. At 6:11, 3 shots were heard, 3 rounds of shots. And of course, the president and the other victims were shot. This shooter was a 20-year-old young man, no criminal record, legally purchased gun and ammunition, who for days in the lead up to this shooting was searching mass shooters. He even had a pic.
Just gonna say this because you know it's my specialty. 20 years old. I wonder if he just went through, if he was like entering a psychosis. Anybody know?
Picture of a mass shooter on his cell phone the day of the shooting. He searched for explosives. He searched high-level officials. So the American people want to know, how did a 20-year-old young man with access to a military-style weapon actually bring it onto an unsecured perimeter who for days had been planning a mass shooting event? And I think that, Madam Director, with all due respect, the answers that we've received here in this hearing today are completely unsatisfactory. How could this happen? We need answers.
She looks great for her age.
We need answers not just for the family members of the gentleman who was killed and those who were injured, but we need answers for our democracy. Because as others have stated here today, we are in a highly politically charged environment right now. We are only weeks away from one of the most significant presidential elections in American history. And it is clear, and it is not just a matter of one shooting, it is a matter of national security. So I hope that you will take our comments to heart. I hope that there will be accountability, and we need answers. And with that, I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Mr. LaTurner from Kansas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheadle, I have a question just right off the bat. Something that you've bragged about repeatedly is that you've increased protection for the 36 individuals that the Secret Service is also entrusted with. Is that correct?
I think I stated that we currently have 36 protectees, and that we continue to make evaluations on where those levels of protection are provided.
You've mentioned specific increases in protection that you've provided for some of those individuals, correct?
Correct.
Based on what?
Well, some of it has been as a result of the tragic incident that occurred on the 13th. We went back and reassessed where we were at in providing protection and wanted to make sure that we were not, overlooking anything, considering this most recent incident.
So the Secret Service needed to learn that allowing a rooftop 150 yards away from a protectee, not in a perimeter, not having someone guarding that roof, that information is new to you, and it's caused you to increase protection to other folks that are under your care?
I think it is prudent after any incident that occurs to go back and take a look at your current practices and see if there is anything that needs to be done differently.
It's inconsistent because what you said earlier to Mr. Turner was that the protection that you were offering to President Trump was in line with the current threats, him being a former president, him being a nominee of a major political party, the threats from Iran, the protection that you're providing him was adequate. Do you stand by that statement?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's a problem that the Americans' trust in the federal government is an all-time low? Do you think that's a problem?
I think that it's unfortunate.
I don't know why you're quibbling with my word. Is it a problem or is it not?
I think the American public deserves to have trust in their federal government.
Okay. I don't know why you're being difficult. I'm just, it's a simple question. Are you concerned about the increasing prevalence of conspiracy theories going on out there right now?
Yes.
I am too. You've been incredibly inconsistent with your answers before this committee today and what you were willing to reveal. You've acknowledged that the shooter was identified with a rangefinder, that President Trump's detail was sufficient for the threats he faced from Iran, that certain details were erroneously reported, in your words, but you haven't been willing to provide any information about the decision to place the building in question outside the perimeter, the explosives placed in the shooter's vehicle, the use of a drone by the shooter, or when exactly the Secret Service identified the shooter as a threat rather than merely suspicious. What is your standard today for what you are willing to answer and what you are not? Because you've been inconsistent.
I'm certain that you can understand that some of the information that's been provided to you thus far has come from the FBI's investigation and has come from information that we have released. I want to make sure that information that is being provided to this committee is consistent and is factual.
But the question about the drone that the chairman asked at the beginning of the hearing, he said, do you know this information? And you acknowledge that, yes, you do know the information, you just don't want to tell us. I guess my question is that if you wanted to wait till the end of the investigation to draw conclusions, which you've acknowledged you're not, you're drawing conclusions right now and making changes. But if that was your standard, that you want to wait till the end of the investigation to draw conclusions, okay, at least you would be consistent in that. But what we're wanting to know today, and what would dispel some of the conspiracy theories out there, what would increase trust with the American people, is for you to let facts out, for you to tell us what you know. And I want to understand from you, why is that a problem? Why is it inconsistent with a quality investigation to release to the American people today at least the information that you know for sure? Because you certainly know for sure more information than you're willing to give us today.
I have released that there was a failure and that there are gaps that we need to make sure that they don't happen again.
That's not acceptable. That's not enough. That doesn't quell any conspiracy theories out there. In your 27 years of experience, would you have been concerned about an elevated location within 150 yards of a protectee that did not have a Secret Service presence, just based on your experience?
What I can tell you is that every site and every venue.
No. I'm asking for your experience. Looking at this situation, would that have been of concern to you? Or would you have agreed that it's fine, it doesn't need to be covered?
What I have explained today
You're
is
not going
that
to answer.
there was.
Is it true that at 5:45 p.m., approximately 18 minutes before President Trump took the stage, the Beaver County Emergency Services Unit noticed the shooter on the roof and photographed him? Is that a fact or not?
That is the information that I have from the FBI's report, yes.
You haven't been willing to share whether or when this was communicated to the Secret Service, so I'd like to get into the difference between suspicious activity and threatening activity. Is it suspicious or threatening if an individual is seen around the perimeter with a rangefinder? Is that just suspicious?
That could be termed as suspicious.
if that same individual with the rangefinder is found on a rooftop, is that still just suspicious, or is that considered threatening?
That could be termed still as suspicious.
All right, my time is over. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And obviously, I want to start by stressing that political violence is always unacceptable, and acknowledging that this is still an ongoing investigation. But oversight hearings like this are essential components of an investigation, and I want to thank the chair for pulling this together. Madam Director, I appreciate you for being here. The events of July 13th raised serious questions about the efficacy and thoroughness of the security protocols in place. The gravity of the fact that an unsophisticated gunman was able to secure his perch and take a shot at a former president despite multiple layers of security and intelligence are not lost on me. Before I came to Congress, I used to work advance for a major political candidate and have interacted with many different law enforcement agencies on large political events like the one that just happened. How many times was the Secret Service alerted about a suspicious person at the July 13th campaign event prior to the first shot being shot?
I don't have an exact number to share with you today, but from what I've been able to discern, somewhere between 2 and 5 times there was some sort of communication about a suspicious individual.
To the Secret Service specifically? Mm-hmm. According to reports, the shooter was photographed twice by security officers prior to the shooting. A police officer saw the shooter on the ground and reported him with a photograph as a suspicious person. Multiple local law enforcement officers identified the shooter, radioed that he was acting suspiciously near the event's magnetometers. A local law enforcement tactical team saw the shooter on a roof and notified other security services and also photographed him. One police officer who photographed the shooter saw him scoping out the roof and carrying a rangefinder. My question is, and you've answered this, but why, or you haven't answered this, why wasn't the event paused right then?
Again, I'm not clear on the timeline of when the Secret Service shift and the counter sniper were notified.
But earlier, Madam Director, earlier you said that the Secret Service would have paused the rally if they identified.
Didn't they wait for him to shoot? Not saying like in a conspiracy way, but it was almost like way too delayed.
Identified a threat.
Correct.
So why wasn't it paused?
Because I have to assume that they did not know that there was a threat when they brought the president out on the stage.
I feel like this is a breakdown in communication between local law enforcement, you all, and other actors at the rally. And
he looks groovy. I like it.
Again, as someone who's worked on these, I understand that there's multiple people with multiple decisions, with the ability to make different decisions on the ground. I've taken over the last week, I've spoken with a lot of folks in local law enforcement in my district and across the country that I've worked with before, and other people have brought up concerns around being able to communicate with with Secret Service during these big events and having their flags taken seriously. I do believe that if Secret Service believed that there was a legitimate threat, that they would have paused the rally. My concern is before that something was flagged and it wasn't taken as seriously as it should have been taken. So I think this shows an issue with communication. And I want to know, Madam Director, what you intend to do to fix that, not in 60 days, but now. We're in the middle of a presidential election, obviously a former president who had an assassination attempt, another rally goer who was killed due to this gun violence. We now have a presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party who's also historic, first Black woman to be running for president. And so I am worried about everybody's life. What do y'all intend to do to fix this communication breakdown and making sure that you actually take what local law enforcement, local folks are saying more seriously?
Why is it that the nightclub I worked at, when there was one time where I had to wear the headset radio, I felt so cool, but it's like, Tori, we have 2 gentlemen down here, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, send them up. It's like, they don't have that. What?
We take what local law enforcement relays to us seriously. Let me just be clear on that. As far as the communication,
But not this time.
we always trust our law enforcement partners and have a great relationship with them. We are looking at whether or not there was a communication breakdown. If that was the case, we will take steps to ensure that we correct that, because to your point, we cannot have a communication breakdown.
Madam Director, does you mentioned that the perimeter of the event did not include the rooftop where the shooter was. Does your responsibility and the Secret Service's responsibility to protect a principal stop at the perimeter of an event?
Our responsibility is to ensure the safety and security of the event itself and the protectee who is attending that event and the personnel who are protecting.
So you would say the fact that the rooftop was outside the perimeter is not an excuse for what happened, saying that it was outside the perimeter of the event?
I am not offering that as an excuse.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas.
How did a 20-year-old loner with a week's notice pick the absolute best location to assassinate President Trump when the entire Secret Service missed it? Director Cheadle, in your leadership, your agency got outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old. How can we have any confidence that you could stop a trained professionals from a nefarious nation state?
Those are absolutely questions that we need to have.
I know they're
answers
questions,
to.
but the fact of the matter is we can't have that confidence. Director, do you have the ability personally, and do you have the authority to beef up security of any of your protectees?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So were you also aware there was a credible threat President Trump was facing? He was facing a heightened security threat to a foreign adversary?
Yes.
Okay. So given that there was an increased threat to President Trump's life, was he provided a full security complement akin to what a sitting U.S. president would receive?
He was provided a full complement of security based on the threat assessment that we had.
That's not my
and
question.
the venue.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the
So
sitting
he didn't.
president
So your answer is he didn't.
and continuity of government and the responsibility
So he
that we
did
have.
not. Okay, there wasn't a CAT team, a full CAT team on site. There wasn't counter surveillance teams on site. But this is the thing. You just said you had the ability to beef up the security. You knew about the threat, and you didn't. And that's as telling as it is chilling. We have satellite images from the Butler Fairgrounds. Have you visited the site?
No, I have not.
9 days and you have not visited the site. You should have been there that night. Did you talk to, that evening, did you talk to the team, the heroes that surrounded the president? Did you call them that night?
They were still operational work.
So that's an answer is no. Did you call them the next day?
President. Yes, I spoke with.
You called them the very next day, not the day of, or was it 72 hours after?
I don't know the timeline, but I spoke with
Okay,
them
because you're under oath.
immediately
I
following.
think it was 72 hours after. You waited 3 days. What is immediately clear is that there are a number of
Might as
structures
well
that
be
need to be secured.
blindfolded.
Of these, Director, other than the first, immediate four, what's the most dangerous site that should have been secured? Because security 101, you got to mitigate the high ground.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the next most dangerous site? What was the closest structure to the president, other than the four immediate ones that you had your counter sniper teams on?
There are a number of structures around that event site.
You know who the shooter knew? The shooter has visited the site 2 more times than you have, and he had a drone, and he picked the AGR building. So you said, do you remember in an ABC interview you did that you didn't have people on the roof of the AGR building because you were worried about safety because of the slope?
I recall that statement.
Okay. Does the Secret Service have written policy you can share with us about slope roofs?
No.
Okay. So why'd you act like there was one? Because is it your practice to comment on enormous events of enormous national implications when you're ignorant of the facts? That's rhetorical. So here's this thing with the slopes. You go all up to like 1812. You can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat. And you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof. So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure. And you want to know why? Because it's dangerous. I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life. It was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events, in Savoy, Texas, where you recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a sloped roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew that he had a scope. I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots. And the one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me. It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey Torrie's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof. And it wasn't the roof that was dangerous. It was a nut job on top of the roof. You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful. And you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos. Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Chair recognizes Ms. Lee from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank the chair, the ranking member, for coming together and holding this hearing. But I have to say, I don't think any of our concerns have been addressed today. And what little we've learned has not inspired much confidence. I will just say that we obviously can't allow the violence we're seeing in this country become the norm or a commonplace, but that seems to be where we're heading.
I love
on this
that color
occasion,
too.
it was, very shockingly a former president and current political candidate at a rally that we all assume is one of the most secure places we can be. But the violence we saw last Saturday is the same culture of violence that makes too many of our kids and our community members feel unsafe to play outside or to go to class or to simply live their lives each day. But again, this was a political rally and it is supposed to be one of the most secure places. So we do have very specific questions about that. Director Cheadle, I'd like to start by following up on some of my colleagues' questions. My colleagues, Mr. Krishnamurthy and Mr. Frost, highlighted a number of points that showed the shooter presenting an active threat. So I'd like to ask you, Director Cheater, to clarify what the protocol is for postponing or canceling an event based on a threat and how the events on July 13th didn't meet those standards.
So again, I think we're talking about the distinction between suspicious behavior and a threat. And at the time that this individual was identified, they were displaying suspicious behavior. I'm still waiting for interviews from the FBI to determine what it was that identified that individual as suspicious and what those behaviors were.
To that question, does suspicious behavior vary between different events? For instance, if we have an event with a president, would there not be a heightened standard for suspicious behavior?
I think that there are a number of ways that someone could be identified as suspicious, and it doesn't matter whether it's at a rally or an indoor event or who the protectee is. I think it's up to law enforcement or citizens to identify someone as suspicious.
Okay, thank you. According to the Associated Press, at least 6 different agencies, including 2 sheriff's office, local police, state police, as well as fire and emergency rescue officials were involved in securing the rally in Butler. When there are so many teams that are collaborating, who takes the lead and how is that determined?
The Secret Service is responsible for the security of the site and the coordination.
And that was the case on July 13th?
Correct.
Okay. Changing gears, in 2024's appropriations budget, the Secret Service was given a little over $3 billion, which was about $78 million above what was requested. For 2025's budget, you've requested yet another increase. How much of these funds goes towards training and improving protection procedures?
I would have to get back to you on the training aspect of it, but about 30% of our budget is for protection and facilities and training.
But clearly the problem can't be a lack of funding. So what exactly do you see as the core problem that led to this failure, that led to your agency being outgunned by a 20-year-old using his father's gun and acting on his own without a particularly sophisticated plan or technology?
I think that we are waiting to determine exactly what those failures or failure was so that we can make sure that the Secret Service is stronger after this.
So we've heard a lot today that you can't answer because it's an ongoing investigation, that you're still figuring out the details and that you won't answer basic questions. You said 60 days for the investigation, but I simply don't think that's acceptable. Do you really plan to keep avoiding questions and the American people's questions, ours and the American people's questions, for the next 60 days?
I'm not avoiding questions. I want to make sure that I am providing factual and accurate information.
Certainly, but is there no in between, right, between what is obviously a fact and what you can surmise from the details that you already have?
I assure you, when I have a full and complete report of what took place on that day, I will certainly come back and make that available.
Certainly. Studies indicate that the United States is experiencing increasing levels of political violence and tension. Does the Secret Service see increasing political violence as a threat to its work? And if so, how is the Secret Service adapting its strategies and protocols to account for increasing political violence?
We are constantly evaluating the threats that we receive and monitoring that, and we make adjustments on a daily basis to our protectees based on what those threats are and what actions we need to take.
Yes or no? Do you believe that stricter controls on the availability of assault weapons would make it easier for the Secret Service to fulfill its missions of protecting public officials?
I think the Secret Service is tasked with providing a safe environment, which is why we put into place a number of mitigation factors.
Certainly, but do assault weapons make it easier or harder for you to do your job?
I think that any weapon makes it difficult for us to do our job.
Okay, I yield back.
Chair Dell recognizes Mr. Donalds from Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, real quick, at what time was Secret Service aware of the active threat against President Trump? Director, what time?
So the Secret Service was aware that there was an individual who had been identified as suspicious, and that individual was attempting to be tracked down.
At what time?
I don't have a specific timeline other than to tell
Director,
you,
it's been 9 days.
I
At
understand
what
that.
time?
I want to make sure that I give you factual information, sir.
Director, have you talked to the agents on the ground that day?
Yes, I have.
You've talked to all of them.
Mhm.
Your senior team has talked to every agent that was on the ground that day.
Yes, we have.
Have they all corroborated the same time they identified the shooter or they were made aware of the shooter, either by attendees in the crowd or local police department?
There are a number of reports of when those times were made.
Was it
those
5 minutes
notifications.
before the first shot rang out?
No,
Generally speaking, was it 10 minutes before the first shot rang out?
no. It
Was it
less,
15 minutes before the first shot rang out?
It was less than that time frame when it was identified as a threat.
How many days before the shooting took place did Secret Service actually do their advance work to secure the facility that the rally was going to be held at?
5 days.
In the 5 days prior, when the security advance team did their work, did they identify the rooftop as a potential threat?
Again, I'm pulling those reports and that information.
It's been 9
to
days,
conduct those
Madam
interviews.
Director. Did they notice a rooftop 150 yards away that was a potential threat? Yes or no?
I am certain that the rooftop was noticed. I am pulling the reports.
What was the security parameters around securing that rooftop? What did they do?
There was overwatch provided for that rooftop.
Did Overwatch fail?
I am waiting to hear what the results of the investigation were so that I can identify where the failure was.
Who did you talk to that was on the ground that day that was responsible for Overwatch? What are their names?
I'm not going to provide their names in this setting.
Did you talk to the people that were providing Overwatch that day?
I've talked to the people that conducted the advance on that day and that were working the shift and were the counter snipers on that day.
So you talked to the counter sniper team. You talked to the people who were providing Overwatch that day, and you talked to the advance team, correct?
Yes, sir.
What did they tell you?
We are putting together a comprehensive report so that I can identify exactly where the gaps and the failures.
When the counter sniper team was on the roof and they identified that there was suspicious activity on the roof in question, what was the chain of command's orders around the person on said roof? Because I'm quite sure somebody saw in under your organization, the Secret Service, I'm quite sure somebody saw the shooter on the roof. So what was the communication through the chain of command to deal with said person?
What I can tell you is that when the individual was identified by the counter sniper, they took one shot and neutralized that individual.
But that was after the shooter already took a shot. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what you're saying now is that the Secret Service did not see the shooter on the roof until after the shooter took a shot?
I do not have all of those details at this time.
If you don't have those details after 9 days, Director, then what you're telling me is that you guys didn't see it. Is that correct?
I am telling you, I don't have all the details of the sequence at this time.
Director, it's been 9 days. Either you have the information or you do not. Is that correct?
We are still in the process of conducting interviews and an investigation.
Some of my colleagues have texted me over the last couple days, bipartisan, about whether you should lose your job. And I've been quiet on that question because I wanted to see what you were going to do today. In my opinion, you do need to be fired immediately. And it is because this is gross incompetence. And the fact that it's been 9 days, and these are simple questions to answer. I'm quite sure if I asked any one of my kids if they got in trouble and I told them to give me the details, I would get more answers from them than I'm getting from you right now. And that's what's frustrating on a bipartisan basis, on a nonpartisan basis. This is a joke. And Director, you're in charge. And that's why you need to go. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair now recognize Mr. Goldman from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, I want to follow up and just understand a little bit why there is so much information about this out in the public, including some from you and your communications team, and yet you're here pursuant to a subpoena under oath in front of Congress, and you're unable or unwilling to answer some of those same questions. Can you just explain why you are answering so many fewer questions here than you have to the media?
I'm answering the questions that I'm able to answer based on the fact that there are multiple ongoing investigations.
But you have answered some of these questions previously, correct? To the public, to the media.
Which questions?
Well, did you have an interview with ABC News?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you explain the interaction between local law enforcement and the Secret Service, and that local law enforcement was responsible for securing the perimeter of the building where the shooter was?
I said that the Secret Service is responsible for designing and implementing and executing the security plan, and that we rely on the assistance of our local law enforcement partners to assist us with that plan.
Let me ask you something. Were you given any instructions about what you can and cannot answer here today?
My ability to answer questions is solely reflective of the fact that there are multiple ongoing investigations, and I want to make sure that I provide accurate information that doesn't conflict with any of those investigations that are going on.
So is it your view that you can't talk about anything that happened that day until those investigations are completed?
My view is that I want to make sure that this committee and the American public gets correct and actual information.
And so is it your view that that can only happen after the completion of the investigation?
It is my view that when the investigations are complete, that we will be able to share that information.
And how about before that?
If I have factual information that I can share before that, I absolutely will.
I'm guessing you have factual information as to when the suspicious photograph of the suspicious person was relayed to the Secret Service. There's a timestamp on that text message or whatever it was, correct?
Sir, I'm sure you can understand that when you're dealing with text messages, emails, and other communications, the timelines don't always match up.
Not really if they're timestamped, but let me move on. Because you have acknowledged that this was a major security failure. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you acknowledge that it was a major security failure not to secure the rooftop of the building that the shooter shot from?
I believe at this time that the rooftop was provided Overwatch. I acknowledge that we are unaware at this time how the individual was able to access the roof.
Overwatch meaning from other counter sniper, other higher points?
Correct.
And so was it a failure then that when that shooter was on the rooftop, that Overwatch did not identify him before he fired his shots?
I don't have the timeline of how the individual accessed the roof, where they accessed the roof.
The fact that I know how he got up there because we literally fucking watched him, I'm done. I can't do it. She's triggering me. It's an ongoing investigation. What do you mean? We know he killed, you know? What do you mean ongoing? Investigation with who? It's annoying. Tell us the deets.
Or how long they were on the roof.
Let me ask a couple things quickly. You have testified here about all the resources that the Secret Service needed to deploy to protect the NATO summit and all of the leaders here. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you have to rely more on local law enforcement because of the NATO summit for this event?
The Secret Service routinely works with local law enforcement at every event. It doesn't matter whether it is a NATO summit, NSSE, the RNC.
No, but that's not my
Milwaukee.
question. Obviously, there's a natural give and take as to, I'm sure, how many agents you deploy and how much you rely on local law enforcement. Did you have to rely more on local law enforcement because there were fewer Secret Service assets available because of the NATO summit?
No.
I hope we get answers before the completion. I don't like the fact that the media has received far more answers than Congress has.
Let's not forget the news media outlets that put the story out first. I think Australia was like one of them. It was all overseas. It's like, oh, sick.
If this is a function of getting your ducks in a row, I assume you have access to a lot of these reports and a lot of this information, and you should have come prepared here today. And I would just want to flag, Mr. Chairman, before I yield back, that I want to just point out one thing that my colleague from Texas was talking about when he said he recreated the shooting twice with an AR-15, and he had a 94% success rate, 15 out of 16 shots. I don't know why that doesn't convince him that we should get rid of AR-15s, but clearly we need to do something about the prevalence of AR-15s and weapons of war on our streets. And I yield back.
Chair now recognize Mr. Perry from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, I guess 60 days is the time of the investigation. Is that the information that you've put out, or where did that come from, 60 days? Or is that just information that the committee members are talking about?
I stated that earlier today. I've asked
Okay,
my
60
team.
days. So are you receiving regular updates? You're in charge of the Secret Service. This is about your organization, what happened 9 days ago. Are you receiving regular updates from the FBI on their investigation?
Yes, I am.
So you know some things are true, some things are probably not true. We want to talk to you about the things that we're hearing about and find out if they're true. Have you've been
Okay, Mr. Timmons, I see you. You run this shit. Let's go.
in contact with the FBI? Then you're getting
Dibs.
updates on a daily basis, right?
Yes.
Based on what you said. Okay, so, and are you confident that the person in question, Mr. Crooks, was the only person firing that day against the president or the crowd? Is he the only one? I'm not asking you yet if he acted alone, but is he the only one? Or can you say that with certainty to the American people?
That is the information I have at this time, yes.
Okay. Does it appear
That is the information I have at this time. So you can answer shit that you don't have, like, she's annoying me. I'd be given all the deets.
he acted alone?
That's the information we have at this time.
Okay. Now let's talk about the fact that he was noticed as a person of interest, of concern, suspicion, as you say. Your PI team, how do they stay in? There's a sea of people. How does the PI team get to that individual that's in question in the sea of people? How's that individual tracked?
Our protective intelligence teams that work at our sites are paired up with a local police counterpart. And so they work in conjunction together.
So just follow them around, or let me ask you this. looking at the site, you have multiple perimeters, right? You have the secure perimeter, the inside perimeter, you have multiple secure or multiple perimeters. Was the AGR so-called building the highest location affecting the site of the rally? Was it the highest location?
I believe the highest location at the site was where our counter snipers were.
What about the water tower
positioned.
adjacent? What about how high is the water tower?
I don't have the height on the water tower.
Okay, seems like water towers are pretty high, at least in the photo. It looks like it might be, there might be actually be a building right behind the AGR building that is even higher than the building that Crooks fired from. You're familiar with cover, concealment, and defilade, right? You're familiar with those terms? Yes. So how would your sniper team or your PI team track the individual and give vectors to Secret Service on the PI team to get to that individual to question him? And how would you cover the defilade, the cover and concealment of low areas that you can't see from where your sniper team immediately adjacent to the president were sighted? How would you?
Because remember, they don't know if it's just one guy. I see it all in my head.
You do that if you're not up on the high ground?
So when our counter sniper teams go out and conduct an advance, they have a methodology and provide a grid system that our response teams.
Think of like a prison. You know how inmates will try to run away from the courtyards and shit, and they have somebody at the way tippy top who has probably cameras to everything, but also like a manual button.
Are able to vector in if they see something that is troubling.
So when Mr. Jordan asked about the assets that were requested, let me just ask you about assets requested. Were aerial assets requested for this event from either the Secret Service or state police or anybody else, drone, manned, otherwise? Aerial assets, were they requested?
Helicopter?
I can't speak to what the local
Just asking
police
if they were
may
requested.
have conversations with the local
Yeah,
police,
they
but
were.
I can tell you that the assets that were requested from the Secret Service for the site that day were all granted.
But were aerial assets required? I didn't ask if you used them or what you used. Were they requested?
Overwatch was requested and
Aerial.
was provided.
Is that aerial? Because Overwatch could mean on the water tower or not on the water tower. Can you be specific, ma'am?
Timmons.
I'm running out of daylight here.
I understand. If you're asking me
I'm running out of the daylight here, ma'am.
about specifics, whether or not there was.
Is it not clear what I'm asking you? Were aerial assets requested by the president, by Secret Service, by anybody?
I thought we saw them. Did we not? He's asking you if when he starts shooting, did you say, get the drones?
Were they requested?
The Secret Service, we felt that we had a good plan in place.
Okay, fair enough. How
Oh.
about K9 assets with bomb sniffing or explosive sniffing capabilities?
No.
Requested. Didn't say they were present. Were they requested?
Those requests were fulfilled.
They were requested and fulfilled.
Mhm.
So was the Crook's vehicle inside any of your perimeters?
No, it was not.
It was not. How did you? So okay, so
Okay,
it was not
Timmons.
within the. It was not. So what was there a device located on Mr. Crook's body to detonate the vehicle?
That is the information that I have.
So what would be the point of detonating the vehicle if it was not inside the perimeter?
I have no idea what Mr. Crook's motivation was.
Ma'am, the fact that you haven't, I'll close with this, Mr. Chairman, haven't even visited the site. I understand there are other things going on, but the culture of your organization, the culture that doesn't, do you know how tall the president is? How tall is the president? President Trump. How tall is he?
6'3".
I don't, he's over 6 feet tall. I don't know.
Okay, so you assign agents based on their ability to cover physically and carry if necessary, the president of the United States. When you assign them to this mission, is that a parameter that is considered?
I could do this.
I assign
Got long arms.
agents to work our protectees that are capable and have been trained by the Secret Service.
I understand they're
Really?
trained,
Because they don't even know how to holster a fucking gun.
but if you're not tall enough, it has nothing to do with, we're not mad at you, but if somebody's 7 feet tall and you're 5 feet tall, there's going to be a delta there that is problematic in protecting the protectee. And I'm asking, is that a consideration when these agents, not saying you, but when they're assigned to the protect.
I literally, when I first saw it happening, I was like, somebody get that girl on the other side. What are you doing? I don't care if Donald Trump's like, you're like, sir, get down. Okay, I'm annoying now.
The agents that are assigned to our protectees are perfectly capable.
Okay, ma'am. So
of
the
providing
culture is what I'm
protection.
concerned about, because the prime.
I bet. I can't say this. Could you imagine you get shot and like you don't know if there's other people, and then your way of getting out of the situation is by a woman? Like, we're fucking dying. Like, I expect to be thrown over the shoulder of a 6'7" Serbian, and just like, cover. Like, what was that?
Primary objective here seems to be something other than securing the site, securing the principal, and securing the people at the site. And that's the concern based on the answers that you've given today so far. Without a yield, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Moskowitz from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this hearing. I want to thank the subpoena that you sent. I want to thank.
Good morning to everyone except the director of the Secret Service.
Ranking Member Raskin and your work, the letter you sent to the committee. And I also support the creation of a commission to get to the bottom of what happened. Director, I just want to give you an honest assessment of how this is going for you today.
Picture out.
Did you happen to catch the hearing many months ago in education where there were a bunch of university presidents, and Elise Stefanik asked a very easy question and couldn't get an answer? Did you see that hearing?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, well, let me tell you, it didn't go well. And the short end of that story was those university professors all resigned. They're gone. That's how this is going for you. This is where this is headed. Okay? This is, I don't know who prepared you for this. I don't know how many times you've testified in front of Congress. But a president was almost assassinated live on television, not just for Americans, but for the world to see. And this being your first opportunity, I understand there's an ongoing investigation. I understand there's things that you can not talk about, but I
wish they would mention, and I know because it's like Congress and shit, but I wish they would mention like civilians died, you know? Like there was a family that watched their family member. Ugh.
The idea that we're getting less than you did on television is something that Democrats, Independents, or Republicans are going to find unacceptable. My high school, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, was on the list of mass shootings that Representative Raskin held up. That very day, the school resource officer, a police officer, did not run into the building. He hid in the stairwell while the shooter was in the building. He stayed outside, never helped. Okay. He also directed other officers who showed up on the scene not to go into the building. When it was determined that the failures in response and training, and that the sheriff fired nobody in his agency, Governor DeSantis then removed that sheriff. I supported the removal. So here's my question. You said there's going to be accountability. I understand you don't want to give.
But like, how did that happen? Like, how can you instruct a police officer, like, don't go in there? They have guns. It's like there's moments where the police act impulsively, don't get me wrong, but when there's like an active shooter, what are you doing? I'd be all on the scene. Get out! I have nothing to lose. Sorry.
Give us names. When you say that, are you telling the committee that once it's concluded, you're prepared to fire the people on the ground who made poor decisions that day?
I'm prepared to take the actions necessary.
No, that's nonsense. Okay. Accountability. The failure was human. That doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they failed that day.
You know what really stressed me out watching the playback of it? Like, I'm from Chicago. You hear a gunshot, get down. Like, you are crawling like you are in Call of Duty. Okay? None of this like, oh, it's fireworks. Like, what do you... It's not funny, okay? You know, it takes a minute for people to process, but anytime you ever hear something that you're not sure, get low to the ground. Drop.
And a former president was almost assassinated. Okay. Are you prepared to fire the human failure on the ground? Yes or no? When you have the names of where those failures were, they're people. It's not like a piece of technology failed. It was people who failed that day. Are you prepared to fire them?
I don't have an answer as to whether.
Well, then how can there be accountability?
But then I feel like if you get new people on, are they going to be better? Yeah, but some of the best learning, am I being a bitch? The best learning opportunities are when you really fuck up. You know, now they should get new people.
If you're not prepared to fire someone, and the reason why your name is going to be the person who's held accountable, the reason why members in this committee are calling for resignation, and I join in that, or for the president to fire you, is because you're saying there's going to be accountability, but you can't commit that people.
Yeah, if she doesn't fire anybody, and this all is on her, like I just see my higher up being like, how the fuck did you guys fuck up? You're all fired. Otherwise, it looks bad on her. It already does, you know, but still.
People are going to get fired. Let me ask this question a different way. If Trump had been assassinated that day, if the gunman had succeeded, okay, would you have come and tendered your resignation?
I would still be sitting here because I would want to ensure the integrity of the investigation.
Totally understand. That's a fair answer, that you would have set up that process. But would you have had the honor to come in front of the committee and say, former president was assassinated on my watch, there should be new leadership?
I think that I have admitted that there was.
No, that's what I'm asking. Would you have tendered?
Why didn't she start with like an apology? You know,
your resignation if he had been killed?
That occurred on my watch, and I am accountable for that.
Okay, but would you have tendered your resignation if he had been killed?
What does that mean? Oh, Bart.
I think that I've admitted that I've taken accountability and will take responsibility.
Okay. Well, let me ask I want to follow up on Representative Connolly's question, in which he asked about guns, and you were not willing to commit that makes your job harder. This is not about the Second Amendment. If there are over 400 million guns on the streets, if all of those guns were machine guns, would that make your job harder to protect people?
Again, I think weapons that are out there.
If all of those guns were rocket-propelled grenades, would that make your job harder?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Perfect. This is not a trick question. Thank you. Okay. I won't ask the other 15 things I was going to do. I was going to do drone strikes, but it's okay. So that's all we were asking. It creates a challenging environment. It has nothing to do with the Second Amendment or people's rights, but it does make your job harder. So credit to Representative Connolly for asking that question. One last thing, Mr. Chairman, and I'll conclude. You know, there was a question asked, is an Iranian assassin more capable than a 20-year-old? And I have been tough on Iran. I probably have more resolutions on Iran than almost anyone in Congress. But I can tell you it isn't Iranians walking into schools and grocery stores and movie theaters and churches. It is 20-year-olds, right? And some of them are mentally unstable. And they have access to guns. And they're domestic terrorists. Someone talked about Christopher Wray.
Fucking finally! You know how long I've been waiting to hear something like that?
Christopher Wray has talked about domestic terrorism. And so, yes, we collectively come together on foreign threats. And I am not at all debasing the fact that there are foreign threats here and abroad. But there are domestic threats. And we have to get to the bottom of how we stop domestic terrorism. Because it was a 20-year-old who walked into my high school and killed 17 people. He was plenty capable, and he was an Iranian. Thank you.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Timmons from South Carolina.
Good point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Cheadle, we've asked you a lot of questions and haven't really got a lot of straight answers. I have intentionally created a line of questioning that I think that you can answer. So the first question is, do you agree that the allocation of Secret Service resources should correspond with the risk profile of any given event?
Another
mystery. A higher degree of risk at one event should get more resources. Is that fair?
That is fair.
Okay. And when two events occur at the same time in the same geographic vicinity, that the risk profile of each event should be taken into account, and whichever event is greater risk should receive greater resources.
That is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to go over the Trump event. So this was publicly announced July 3rd, Butler, Pennsylvania. The venue is an outdoor fairground, open air, no existing security. The crowd size was expected to be tens of thousands. It ended up being over 20,000. There were general and specific threats from foreign adversaries. As the chairman of intelligence remarked, Iran has said they want revenge, as well as when President Trump was in office, he made a lot of people mad, terrorists to be included all over the world. And, you know, President Trump is the former president and the future president. So I would say that that is a fairly high risk event. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, let's conversely, the First Lady had an event at a casino in Pittsburgh, just a few dozen miles away. It was a dinner for the Italian Sons and Daughters of America. It was publicly announced on July 10th. What's interesting is that the casino is actually extremely secure. They already have magnetometers existing prior to this event.
They have like they can track what you look like and that shit. If I worked at one casino in Las Vegas and they own multiple ones, if I went to another casino, it would track me and alert police. I think that's insane.
Being announced, it was in a ballroom, and the size of the crowd, a mere 400. There were no specific threats. There may have been general threats, and the asset is the First Lady. Those seem like there's a huge disparity relative to risk. Would you agree?
Yes.
I know. But
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, guys, my dog needs me. She's got to go potty. I'm going to put the link in my chat so you guys can go watch the rest of it. It's like 11-hour video, but we are at 1:17:21. 1 hour, 17 minutes, 21 seconds. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Goodbye.